No.
I would carry on a Fisher Price frying pan, and when my dad put me on his shoulders, I'd go, "Not the mama!" He's like, "Get off!" Like, where'd you even get that?
Oh, hey, Alice. Thanks for stopping by. Happy Valentine's Day. Hope you got lots of chocolate. You remember Courtney from Kid Romantic?
Yes.
What you might not know is she has another project called Shrieking Violet. How you doing today?
I'm doing swell.
Awesome. What about you? Have you seen anything good lately?
I watch a lot of Korean dramas.
Hell yeah.
So I really liked Healer. It's about this guy that's kind of like, he called himself a night errand boy, but he just gets hired to do jobs, and he'll basically do anything but kill somebody. And he has to get this girl's DNA, and then he's given a task to protect her, and they fall in love because, romance. We don't have it, but we absorb it from other people.
Live vicariously through the best characters. Yeah.
That's why I watch TV.
Yeah.
That's what the screen's there for.
It's escapism. Oh, this is a good segue. This is a good point to bring up. Alice, we're starting a book club.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and that's going to be fun. You can read books with us. Read along.
Since books clubs have a theme that I discovered, because we don't really know a lot about setting up book clubs, we decided the theme would be best at going with books that have been banned through history by governments or systems, because banning is kind of a broad thing. So we're going to be looking into books that groups of people don't want us to read for some reason or the other.
Books that they try to suppress.
We're so adamantly about not suppressing what people have to say, and that's a little bit of laziness because I've already read a lot of them on that list. So
We'll give a announcement on the book later on, but spoiler alert, it's probably going to be Animal Farm.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Very cool.
Yeah.
The red button of books.
Say what?
The red button of books.
Yeah.
Don't press it.
And that one's fairly short, so it's like, I feel like that would be a good one to start with.
Is that the one where all the animals talk?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
I've never actually read it all the way through,
They take
so.
they take the farm back over.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
And
Vegan anarchy.
well, to an extent, until, all animals are created equally. It's just that some animals are created more equally than others, according to the pigs. Anyway, pig man pig, haha, charade you are.
Yeah, it's animals are on this farm, and shit is happening. They have owners of the farm, and...
No, they have an owner of
Oh,
the
the
farm,
owner of the
and they
farm.
run him out.
Oh, that's right, and then it's the pigs.
And then they take over the farm. And
Spoilers.
And we can explore the nuance of what each farm animal represented, because there's a lot of debate about if they represented anything in particular or if they were just part of this. There's some people that argue that it's in support of socialism. Some people argue that it's not.
That's the great thing about any work, especially one like that, is it'll create debates like that. It's because there's multiple ways to look at things, I watched a movie last night. It's been out a couple of years, but it was really fucking good. It's called Nightmare Alley. You guys seen that?
Never heard of it.
It's got Bradley Cooper as the main character, and it's about he joins a carnival and he's a grifter. They're like conning people, and he takes his act to Vegas and like on a way bigger scale, and like his mentor is telling him like, you need to be careful how deep into this you get, because at a certain point you can start selling it to yourself. He's like, the danger comes in when you start, because like his whole thing is like he has a blindfold and he'll tell people like things about their past or like what's in their pocket, but it's all tricks. But his master's like you can get to a point where you start believing yourself, like you think you have powers, and he's like, that's really dangerous. He's like, don't. So that's what the movie's about, is like things start happening where you're like, wait, how did he know that? Like, does he have powers? And then it's like he's kind of like, do I? And he's like losing his fucking mind. It's a great movie.
Sounds interesting.
The concept was really cool. I hadn't seen something that like unique in a long time. That's what I saw recently that was good. That's my thing.
Well,
have you seen Dune?
No.
Dune is really good too. Well, I won't break down Dune. It's good. It's good. We might read that one at some point too. I would like to do that maybe.
Well,
maybe that's not in theme.
Was that banned?
Maybe we'll just wait. It'll eventually get banned.
Right. It'll get banned.
Anything with like content, anything that reflects reality.
Well, they put the third movie out, or the 8th movie out.
Yeah.
That completely goes against.
That's another
anything
one
Herbert
that
ever said.
That like has like caused a lot of debate as to whether what is this story about, and like there's two camps on that. There's like yeah. I won't break down Dune too much.
Well, what it all boils to is a great story.
Mm-hmm.
Well written story. Leaves that there. Doesn't seal it up that much.
Right.
It keeps it to where it's like people are going to say, no, it's more about what I believe than it is about what you believe. I really like that's a brilliant story, so it has to line up with what I...
And come to think of it, wars have been fought over shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does this scripture mean? It's like, no, I think it means this. It's like, I think it means this. It's like you're both just nerds of this book. Like, you're both book nerds. Yeah, no, it's like this.
Mm-hmm.
He meant this when he said that.
Well, then that gets back to, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Because the one who can convince the rest of the people that they interpret it right controls those people.
Yeah.
But I mean, we talked about that with songwriting. I told you about that when it comes to songwriting. Where, sometimes it's like speaking in tongues. Which I'm glad we have another songwriter here, because I can get a little more perspective from that, because writing, I used to be a poet and a musician before I became a songwriter,
Like, separately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up to being a poet, and when my first instrument was clarinet, but when I began to play guitar and conceive music as an expression, not as a learned a thing, it becomes, the writing, I was still writing poetry, and I would learn music, but trying to write a song, I would be like, let me take this poem and let me write music around it, and that's not necessarily how it works.
Yeah, I don't really know how that works.
It's really odd, and I had to be told by a brilliant songwriter, and she told me, she's like, look, you need to just basically shut the hell up and play 3 chords and sing something. And, and that's what it boiled down to. She said, listen to everything that you like. I never grew up learning a lot of songs like most musicians. I was a jazz musician, so I was writing stuff, pieces and stuff. So, I didn't really, I would learn the key, and I just play my own leads. I learned Jimmy, you know, and Jimmy never played his leads the same. And he said, you want to hear the record, go home and listen to it. I'm not going to play the record live.
That's a good showman.
Yeah, so I mean, I had to basically be taught, quit trying to bring these two things together. Right. You're trying to do something different, you know, and you need to dumb it down. So
songwriting isn't like taking a poem and putting music to it. It doesn't work like that.
No, I mean, you kind of can. Rush managed to pull that off. You know, that's Neil Peart writing all these phenomenal lyrics and handing them to Getty to how to figure out, you know, we're going to write some crazy prog, you get to figure out how to vocalize it.
It's like figure it out.
You know, these poems I wrote. And that's, you know, and I'm not even a huge Rush fan. I'm a massively appreciative of what they do. They're very respectful. They're phenomenal musicians.
Though his mind is not for it.
Right, but it's not, you know, I don't have a stack of their records in my collection.
Well, you should.
Like I do Led Zeppelin. So when you write, you run through the same process, you think, or do you?
I think the process is different every time. You know, Smells Like Alone, for example. I was in my car just driving home from like dropping somebody off to pick up a FedEx truck, and I was just kind of thinking about how like, oh shit, I just missed my turn. I was like, I always kind of miss my turn, you know, and it's like literally and also figuratively in life, you know. I feel like. And I had vape all over my windshield, and I was like, my windshield's really blurry right now. And I just started, like, thinking about these things that were happening and how they had a context to my life in a way, you know, like I've got blurry vision, like I go the wrong way sometimes, and I turned on my voice recorder, and I just started, like, singing a melody, and I went home, and I figured out what key that was in and put some piano to it. Sometimes I just have, like, imagery that I want to convey, or kind of like the sounds of words will come to me, and I'll find words that fit those sounds.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense, because I've noticed lyrically, I mean, with the many, many songwriters and people I've worked with, and just, you know, knowing you in particularly have a very different approach or a different selection of words. You have a very particular selection of words, which I really identify with in writing, because I'm really about, you know, making a word work.
It's like
because I have to get the meaning in there, you know.
It's very alternative. Like I wouldn't like. There's different ways to say it, but you said it that way. Kind of stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's intriguing. It's one of those things that it makes it that much more difficult to pull off. You know, and make it palatable to the standard ear.
There's nothing palatable about me.
Well, you know.
So your process is just pretty intuitive. You do whatever you're feeling at the time.
Exactly. And sometimes if I don't have lyrics in mind that have just like jumped out at me, like I could be anywhere. I could be like on the toilet at work and just think of 2 lines and be like, I'm going to come back to that when I get home. Or I just say I want to write a song, and I sit down at the piano and I hit a few chords, see if any of them inspire me. I never have one set process, but I have a few things that I do.
Right.
That's cool.
That's kind of what I was wondering, is on the, as far as the putting things together, because I know what you're saying, is like, if you're inspired by something, and it's usually while you're working, you know, I've always noticed you're usually in the middle of doing something else, and I think that's because once you're awake into the day and you're functioning in something that you do that's almost like a Zen meditation, that's when you can release and these things will come into you. But, you know, usually your employers aren't real thrilled with it.
That's definitely true for me. Like, I get some of my best shit done when I'm supposed to be doing something else.
Right.
For sure.
If my house is dirty, I'm doing the best writing. It's like, there's a mess I need to take care of. Like,
that's why I have so many songs. My house is a wreck. Or like right when you're about to go to sleep and you really need to go to sleep. You're like, if I don't write it down now, it's gone forever.
In there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a lot that's gone to the ether. a lot of jams, a lot of stuff like that. But we should have recorded that. And then, it's give that to the universe,
To the ether, I like that imagery.
It's like, it's still there. It's just somewhere else.
Yeah, it's like, what do we do when we're, on the tundra, Alice? You know what I talk about. There was no recording devices. The only recording device was the universe. Mm-hmm. Sound waves that just keep going. Pounded air patterns.
Jam into it.
Convey messages.
Yep.
Quoteth King Buzzo. But, well, that's so like contriving, because I understand when you're saying when you like decide to sit down and write, because doing it as work, and I'm fortunately and unfortunately I don't do it as work so much primarily that I have to do it. Mm-hmm. But I have to do it because I still have the drive as an artist. And a lot of people I've known and I've seen it happen, will come up into doing these things and they will burn out because they end up banking so much on it and they have to do it in order to sustain, and it burns them out. It's like you do the same job for 5 years, no matter how great you are at it, you're kind of like, am I doing something different?
Before you got here, Alice, we were talking about you're a Reiki master.
Yes.
And I thought this would be a good segue because earlier you were telling us that it's been described to you like it comes through you kind of thing.
Yeah, like you're a vessel. Like the power's not within you. You just pass it along.
I'm wondering, do you think art is the same way? Like it's kind of we're the vessel for this thing and it kind of comes through us?
I think so sometimes. Sometimes I think that we come through it, in our truest forms. Like, I feel like nobody can really know me until they've seen me sing, they've heard my music, they know that I perform. I feel like it's when I'm most honest.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like...
I talk about speaking in tongues when, like in jazz, real improv is, and Alex, I've had him watch when, we've had sessions over here, and he's asked me, like, how do y'all, do that kind of stuff, and it's...
Yeah, because I don't understand collaborating at all. Yeah. Like, all of my art is solo, so it's like...
And we're over here just jamming, it's like, what key you gotta be,
And with jazz, that's crazy. You gotta be, like, just a little bit clairvoyant.
Right.
I love watching it, just jamming out like that.
You can't do it with everybody as well. Now, and that's one of those things where I talk about, doing it professionally, and that's where I was trying to get into the contriving. Doing it as something that must be done. Because I have sessions over here that, they're just as wide open and as fun as anything, but it's still like, all right, look, we gotta, because it's easy to lose focus. Mm-hmm. And it's such an odd line, because I work on commercial stuff, and even when I'm doing that, I still manage to find a creative aspect for myself in it. I never really feel like anything that I'm working on is something I don't like.
Yeah. I feel like that's the trap with music. You don't want to fall into that where it feels like work. Like, it absolutely takes work, but it should always be a labor of love.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and like we've talked about this before, but there's, the way I see it, there's like two ways to approach it, where you have like something happen to an artist, or they're going through something and they need to get that out and share that. There's that, and then there's, which I'm not dogging it at all, it's just another way approach, but there's like the capitalist approach to it. It's like, I'm going to use art, I'm going to create something that will be appealing to a mass. Mm-hmm. Like
it's the art of marketing.
Like the nature of a chorus, it's supposed to be something that isn't too complicated, and somebody can, after the first round, be singing along and know the words. Just catchy. I think they said the most common word to end a line on was tonight.
Totally.
Yeah.
I wonder how many songs end like that. That's a good point. So hold on, going back to when we were talking about like it cut like energy coming through you and channeling it,
Mm-hmm.
and you were saying, I think you said something like sometimes you go through it, something like that. Are you saying like the energy is there, but you put a voice to it, like your own spin on it?
No, the thing is that the person who is receiving Reiki, their body knows what is needed for them, you know,
Okay.
so I don't have to know what you need. You're going to take care of yourself, like a homeostasis system. I'm just there to pass through and to help clear any blockages.
Okay.
That's what I've heard about it, that it's really about moving energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's
There's no intention behind it, you know.
I gotcha.
Somebody said it's kind of like praying for somebody, but when you pray for someone, you have intention. You're putting your intentions on them, and with Reiki, it's not about putting your intentions on anybody else.
Okay.
We had a debate on whether it was ethical to perform distance Reiki on someone without them knowing it. And people brought up the comparison, well, people pray for others all the time, and if this is less intentional than that, you know, what's the harm in it?
Stop healing me.
That's
What are you doing?
That's super interesting, and I want to come back to that rabbit hole. But I should have been more clear. I was actually talking about like music inspiration.
Music.
Like, do you think?
Well,
It kinda
it's
sounded
actually a real similar thing, though, because
That is a weird conversation because these two things seem to overlap a lot.
because Reiki's not about contact, and you know, it's about energy movement, and music's like that too.
I do touch people, though, with my hands and my music.
So okay, so like. So back to the music thing. Do you think it? Like, I guess I'm trying to get an idea of where you think inspiration comes from. We talked about it, but like, do you think like that, like an energy gets you and then you have a voice to it? Is that what you were saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like you channel that energy, but it's not like you put all the flavor and the voice and everything to it.
I think that's totally like possible. Like sometimes, you know, you feel this. It's almost like anxiety, and you don't know why you feel it. You don't know what it is, but you're trying to put words to it. It's definitely easier to write when you have been through something that, you know, jars you a little bit and puts you in a space of panic almost. But you don't always have that, and you can't just stop writing music because
I got you.
You're not in your feelings that day.
I didn't want to put words in your mouth. That sounded like where your approach was on it. I just wanted to see if that was right.
Yeah, I've talked about that before, where it's like I don't write as many songs lyrically like I used to in my personal stuff because I don't necessarily have the turmoil in my life that I did at the time, you know. And, you know, back when I was back in my rock and roller days, Alice, before I settled down and to be a humble producer. You know, through those years, I've had friends of mine even say, you know, I've had girls tell me, "Oh, you songwriters, you know, y'all have to have an issue to have something to write about," you know. And I'm like,
that's true. Yeah, that's
you know, it makes you think, but at the same time, I'm going no, because I've never wanted to have. I would much rather have not been able to write the songs that I wrote than to have gone through some of the shit that I've gone through to write these songs.
For sure. I mean, I've definitely met people who will absolutely say, you know, I need to instigate some shit in my relationship so I can get inspired. But I've never wanted to invite problems into my life. You know, I don't need to be heartbroken to write a song. Like, maybe my pancake didn't turn out right. We'll get something out of it.
There's a hit there.
Hey, straight up.
The pancake song. Fuck yeah.
Hey, you know, there's plenty of turmoil that can be. And I think that's the beauty of writing songs, and that's when you get to the point of that level of. It's kind of a contriving thing, and I do a lot of it with commercial music, but you're still looking for a witticism. You're still looking for something that's clever. And it's like you're saying, you know, the pancake didn't turn out. I could turn that into a metaphor on life and, you know, possibly have somebody weeping, you know, and be like, you know, I wrote that about a pancake. You know? But.
Yeah. I think, like, for me, it's more like looking back kind of stuff. Like it's not so much things that I go through in the moment, more as like turmoil, like getting hung up on the past kind of stuff. You know,
those traumas you haven't worked through.
Yeah, and I guess. See, like, I guess this is gonna get like real personal, but like, and sometimes I wonder like if making art like that, and like it kind of feels like opening up old wounds sometimes. Mm-hmm. So it's like I don't know if that's healthy. It's like it makes me feel good in the moment, but it also like I'm like drudging up emotions and like I don't know.
I think it just depends on what you do with it after that. I mean, if you've got a foreign material in your body and your skin is healed over it, like it's still in there doing damage. And so if you were to cut it out and remove it so that you can actually start to truly heal, that's one thing, versus just like picking at it and looking at it. You're like, yep, that's still there. We'll deal with it another time.
Hey everybody, look at the glass that won't come out of my
right? Like, yeah, just look at this.
I think and that analogy really helps.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that do that to the extent to where they don't ever want it to heal, because if it ever heals, they don't have anything to bring up at the club.
I guess
in the
like,
coffee shop.
And if it's causing you to like think about it, maybe that shows that it's not healed.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually the idea.
Because I mean, I think a lot of us, when we experience something that's painful, we kind of don't want to think about it as much. You know, we want to distract ourselves with television and books and alcohol or whatever you use to cope, but you're not actually addressing it. They're not going there and sitting there in therapy like, okay, how can I work through this? How did I contribute to what happened to me, and how can I move forward in a way that's positive?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Very few of us actually take that step. They get hung up in cycles.
Mm-hmm. But therapy is expensive, so like no judgment.
Right.
That's You got any songs that you've written that you don't like to play anymore? For the sake that it brings things up to you that you wrote about it?
I think I'm pretty comfortable with my vulnerability when it comes to music, and I think the music that I write is incredibly vulnerable. I have some songs that I've just never released because I'm not as proud of them as I could be, or I haven't performed them because of that, or maybe I don't like the way my voice sounds on it.
Right. Well, there's always that. I mean, I've got a couple that I know that they're liked, but they're a little too campy or too kitschy for me. Mm-hmm. So, I'm like, I don't wish I didn't write it, but it's not necessarily, even though a lot of people think I should be proud of it, and I know, well, it's a good song, it's still not something I like to play because of that, because it's just kind of like, I've got other stuff that's so much deeper and heavier, so it just kind of, there's a shallowness to some of it that I'm like, it's almost frustrating because some of the stuff can get so deep, and then the silly song I write ends up being, everybody's favorite.
That's like, that's the curse for a lot of artists. Anthony Burgess, the guy that wrote Clockwork Orange, that's like his least favorite book he ever wrote, and it's by far his most popular. He hates it, or hated it.
Mario Puzo, that wrote The Godfather.
Same thing.
Yeah, well, he wrote that. He was conscripted to do it. He wrote that for them to make a movie of it, and he didn't really want to.
That sucks.
He said that he didn't really want to put the Sicilian people and the immigrants in that kind of light and glamorize it like that.
And I kind of relate to that, like more so than holding things back for my own sake. I find that I will hold things back for other people's sake, even if it is my truth, and even if I do think that, that's exactly how it happened, and maybe the other person I'm writing about is wrong. I feel like it's okay for me to bear my scars, but I don't feel like it's okay to bear somebody else's scars, so that gets tricky. Or maybe I'm worried about causing people to worry about me. Like, I want to say 7-8 years ago, I wrote a song called Suicide Note. And I never performed that for anybody or showed it to anyone because it was just something I was working through that night. But it wasn't a kind of worry that I wanted to put out there.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like, that stuff is powerful, like, especially the kind of stuff that you do, so it will have an impact on people. It kind of, with great power comes great responsibility.
Right?
Yeah.
When you're not just speaking for yourself, you have to speak a lot more carefully.
Yep. You know, words have power, especially when you put tones behind them. You know.
Yeah, music's its own kind of language, huh?
It can get away from you.
What do you mean?
You know, well, it's like, you know, with words, even with poetry and speaking in general, you can re-explain it. You know, I can say, well, this is what I actually meant, or you know, or you know, or you can tell somebody, or you can really just tell somebody I was absolutely bullshitting. I don't believe that. I said, you know, that was, you know. But when you write a song and it is interpreted by somebody, and somebody comes to you and, you know, talks to you about it, and they're, you know, it shattered their reality right in front of you, you know. And the effect, because the stuff that I was writing, you know, my first release, A Great Barrier, is really what it's about. I tell people a lot of times, they're like, oh, you know, it sounds like love songs. You know, a lot of it sounds like love songs and this and that, but I'm like, no, it's about lust and addiction. Mm-hmm. You know, it's primal. It's very rooted in the true nature behind all of that. And that's what I meant by the Great Barrier. You know, it's a play on the name, because I was called the Great Barrier Neif by a friend of a friend. And I said that was the most clever name I've ever heard anybody adjust with my name. But I said, you know, that's really what it was, is me getting past a major culminative point in my life, not just a hurdle, not just getting through these things, but not even just a realization, an acceptance of a realization, you know. And that kind of stuff, when you lay it out there like that, and other people that have any kind of turmoil that is any similar to that can catch it in the right way, it can really, really affect them. And I mean, I've had people, you know, I'd run into at a bar or somewhere, and I'm talking to them, and, you know, oh, listen to this and that, and they're literally in tears. I'm trying to talk to them about, you know, and they're like, what, you know, people ask me, what is this about? And I say, I want you to tell me what it's about to you first. I don't want to explain it to you, because I like to speak in tongues.
Well, I mean, that's, I also hate, like, getting asked, like, what does your work mean? Because it's like, what, I said it speaks for itself, like, it's there. Like, there's
I don't mind telling somebody the story of search. Some of them are very specific stories. You know, some of my songs, they don't seem like that. Some of the ones that don't seem like they're very specific are actually much more specific than you realize, you know. But I write them to be broad, and for people to relate to them. And so when somebody is affected by them and they tell me what it meant to them, and it's usually very similar. They're usually almost very similar. And a lot of these people, depending on this track, have the same issues, or going through the same similar type of problem. And I explain to them what it's about, and it doesn't help. You know what I mean? It just crushes them even worse, you know. Yeah. And it's one of those things where it's like, you know, like you're saying, it's wielding power, but I can't say that I'm not supposed to do that, because they might need that breakdown.
And like you were saying, like if you say something, you can always like rephrase it or edit it. Like,
I can't
go back.
Right, I can't explain somebody out of what that song touched them with.
Right.
I used to talk about that. If you misinterpret a lyric for years and years, does that mean the song didn't mean the same thing to you when you figured it out?
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
On the contrary, I actually really love it when people ask me what my lyrics are about. I enjoy getting the process to explain that, but at the same time, I never want my meaning behind it to take away from how they relate to it. 'Cause it's kind of like take a penny, leave a penny. Take what you need.
Right.
Yeah.
Give me your 2 cents.
I've been listening a lot more of your stuff going through your catalog.
It's an honor.
Well, you know, not that I don't listen to every guest that comes on here, Alice. That is my job, but You know, it's you have a very I'm really curious to know your influences.
Oh goodness.
We talked about it a little bit last time. We didn't get very deep into it though.
Growing up, I think the vocalist I identified most with was Fiona Apple.
Okay.
And I think as I got older, and also because keys was my primary instrument back in the day, I never really knew how to get the sound of the music that I listened to, like My Chemical Romance, Panic at the Disco, Fall Out Boy when I was a teenager growing up. But as I got older, I realized that it wasn't about sounding like them or the fact that I was stuck sounding like her. It was coming to acceptance with what my sound is and realizing that when you shoot for the moon, like, maybe you just discover a new planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, why stop there? Just keep going.
I've enjoyed finding a way to not fight my tone or the way that I write. You know, recently my friend Alex, he said that it was like if Elton John was 5'3" and filled with hate, and I was like, I love that. I'm not mad at it.
That's accurate and good description.
Yeah, it's never what I would have like aspired to, but like,
yeah,
it's my music, it's my truth, and I'm gonna love it because if you can't love your music, how can anybody else love it?
Well, you definitely have an angstiness in what you do, but what I like is it's not necessarily a weakness. You know, it's not so much what you expect from the woe is me kind of thing. It's it's pretty introspective, I think. It's it doesn't jump too far up the power play, like don't fuck with me, I'm but it's and I don't see that much anymore these days. I don't see a lot of singer-songwriter stuff in general these days that steps outside of trying to do
like tonally
a
and
thing,
with words you're doing something different.
Thank you, that means a lot. I've kind of accepted that I know that I'm not the most well-trained at anything I do. I'm definitely not the best instrumentalist. I'm probably not even good. I'm okay, and that's fine with me. But I like to think that I do something that only I can do. Yeah, for sure. And that's like what we're talking about, like with real art. Mm-hmm. You're a real artist. And it's like you're trying to express something. Mm-hmm. And it's at the end of the day, you could probably relate to this. This is how I feel. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if anyone likes it. Mm-hmm. You made it ultimately for you. Exactly.
And it's like, it's for other people, obviously that's why we share it. We want to share, but like at the end of the day, it's like that when it's real art, it's genuine. And it's like, that's why you have a uniqueness to it, because it's genuine. You're not trying to be something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it keeps the honesty there. Yeah. And that's as we talk about all the time, that's the key thing. That's what I was told by the songwriter who taught me most that I know about songwriting, was that, she said, Neif, it doesn't matter what you say and how you say it, as long as it's the truth.
That's so true.
People respond to the truth when they can tell it's the truth coming from you. And through the years, especially getting into production, it doesn't matter what genre. It can be Southside hard-hitting gangster rap. If they're not speaking truth in some form or fashion, now you don't necessarily have to have gone out and shot a bunch of people.
Right.
But if your expressions are coming from your true experience of, and that's a lot of what it is, it's like, I'm from out this way where this happens, not where I've gone and done this.
That's, a lot of the old school rappers, it was like, they're not glorifying it. It's like, no, this is the shit I've been through and it's not good.
Right.
Like, don't do this
and
shit.
So it comes off as like, it's much harder to hear about how cold the neighborhood is and how dangerous it is to you than have somebody telling you how cold they are and dangerous they are to you. Because it's, you know, it doesn't, it's like, yeah, whatever, you know, anybody can tell me. Yeah, whatever, dude. But, you know, it's keeping the mystique.
Mm-hmm. And kind of allowing others to place themselves in those shoes.
Absolutely. And that's the power behind it. You know.
There's a lot to be said about not saying a lot, like just saying enough, not over explaining it. You know.
There's
like,
also a lot to be said about not saying enough mumble rap. But we won't jump down that rabbit hole.
So what got you into Reiki?
I had been interested in it for a while. Ever since I was a kid, I was interested in the idea of energy, witchcraft, stuff like that, and I just looked it up randomly, and I saw that there was a workshop going on in a couple weeks. I moved around my schedule, and I signed up for it.
Nice.
It was pretty cool. I've just always been interested in the metaphysical. Wanted to believe something else was out there, but I don't really know if anything is. But it would be nice if it was.
Yeah, that's the thing about all of that. Like, I've had encounters with spirits, but I have in my head that it might be in my head also.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that's important. It's important to, like, who knows anything about what's going on? We don't know anything.
We don't know anything.
There's something out there.
Nothing. Not a single thing.
That's why I didn't have any opinions last time, because I'm like, we don't know.
Hey, I don't know you.
Outside the rabbit hole, there's something. In the trees.
Uh-oh.
It's a bird. It's a plane.
I thought somebody told me birds weren't real.
Oh, yeah. That's true. Shout out to Scufflemoss with the Birds Aren't Real campaign. That's true.
I'm not sure he has a face. I've never seen it.
Scuff?
Scufflemoss?
Mm-hmm.
I see Scufflemoss.
Yeah,
He's been on here, yeah.
But is there a person under the mask? I don't know.
He's just a tree. He's a troll.
Tree? Okay. I'm Groot.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah, he came here from, like, Eastern Europe, like, 150 years ago. He's just been chilling.
And he's just been here since?
Yeah.
Yeah, put together a band. You familiar with the band?
The Wooden Boys. I listen to a little bit of him when he posts stuff on Instagram.
Wooden Boy. I know a bit. I know a bit more about them than I probably should because I helped them out with some production when they first got together.
Man, you get around.
Well, and they're
he do.
also have housed their Space Cat and helped him with his Camaro, getting back and forth.
He's probably around here somewhere.
He probably is. Probably outside beating on the side of the satellite. But, yeah, they're quite a bit of fun.
I really admire that. I think it'd be fun and freeing to have an alter ego.
It's one of those things that, you know, I mean, I've played on stage and produced a lot, recorded a lot, but I've never really been able to. It really gets me as a lot of those type of acts I was never really into, you know. I mean, I always liked War. I kind of appreciated him back in the day, but with Wooden, they, you know, I mean, especially with Scufflemoss, you know, those guys don't let up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's nobody behind the mask because those aren't masks. You know, those guys just don't let up, you know, and I love that about artists, you know. Mm-hmm. If you come in and you give it all to me, then I'm going to take it all. I'm not going to reject it, you know, and that's how you get good art. You know, you can't filter it out. That's all post-production shit. You don't want the artist around for that. Don't worry about that stuff.
Yeah,
Alex.
Don't worry. I'm just going to cut out your favorite part of the song.
Yeah, just
because it sucks.
that part that you thought was really good, yeah. But you know, I mean, no, it's you know, when you got a good band, working with them is easy. But I mean, I only did you know, right when they were getting together and getting things going, and would go do help them with the shows and stuff like that. But I'm doing so much more stuff now that only time I see any of them, I see Scufflemoss on the show. You know. So. But yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah. So you said you thought it would be freeing to have an alter ego. What would your alter ego be?
I was about to ask y'all what you thought I should do. I'm like, maybe I started TikTok finally, and that's the way I do it.
What do you find freeing about that?
I suffer a lot from anxiety. Like I mentioned before, I'm an introvert who feels like they were born to be an extrovert. You know, like I feel uncomfortable on stage, but at the same time, I feel more comfortable singing than I do speaking. It's like my voice is louder.
You ever found it odd singing by yourself as opposed to singing in front of other people?
Mm-hmm. And I think there's benefits to both.
Well, oddly enough, my hold up on singing was not so much my nervousness about performing. It was just I didn't feel my voice was that strong, and I was told just shut up and sing. That's what they tell me, just shut up and fucking sing. And but I actually found it more odd, more I guess embarrassing, if you will, that weird to like ride in a car and sing by myself.
Really?
It just it confused me too, because I'm like, why do I feel weird about doing this? Now it doesn't bother me anymore because I had to get used to it when I was, working on a lot of stuff. I'd have to ride around with a mix with no vocal, and but it always just kind of cracked me up that in my brain I would think that, and then so many other people was the exact opposite. Even people that don't really sing, they're like, you see people singing in the car and they look over at you and they're like, oh,
Pull up to a stop sign though, and you're like, "Oh, there's people here."
I'm over there just wailing.
I do this move, put my up here so they can't see that I'm singing. It's like, yeah.
I'm just gonna run a microphone so I can be like singing to them.
Yeah, just like hook up a microphone to like a speaker outside the car. That way everyone can hear you.
Yeah. There you go. Right.
It's like sometimes like when I'm driving down the road and I'm listening to music really loud, I roll the windows down because it's not enough just to listen to my music loudly. I need everyone else to hear it too.
Yeah, listen together.
Yeah. People can understand how great the music is.
Yeah,
right.
And they need to know that I like good music.
Yeah, exactly. These random strangers I'm driving by, yeah.
Like, if you hate it, well, fuck you. But if you like it, like,
Yeah.
flag me
Let's
down.
be
Let's be friends. Yeah.
They should be thankful, and if they don't like it, they should get better taste. I'm trying to teach them.
Education.
Education.
It ain't free, but it sure should be.
Straight up. That's let's go down that rabbit hole.
Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And knowledge wants to be free. Information wants to be free.
That's like kind of at the core of my philosophy is that information should be freely acquired and distributed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like it's a big part of like why we hang out with Alice here is first of all so I can learn myself, because you can't teach people if you don't know anything.
Right.
So it's like I'm having all kinds of people on to learn about Reiki and all kinds of shit and expand my consciousness that way, and Alice's consciousness. That way I can share that with other people too. And that, I think, that is the single most important thing we can do, in my opinion. I don't know how objectively true that is, but...
I think it's just true.
Yeah.
Each one teach one.
And there's a lot of problems with our world right now. And a lot of it could be alleviated if people knew more, first of all, but also, like, we're self-sufficient. That's the biggest thing.
Well, think about this, though, about the knowing more. Rewind the clock back to, a more condensed Earth, right? Not so many people, not so many
Okay, thanks.
masses. Yeah. Not necessarily all the way back to the tundra.
Mm.
But just a few hundred years ago, people didn't have the knowledge, but the problems of the world were not the problems of the world. They weren't global.
They were area.
Kind of like the Great Flood, Where like
it's like the whole world flooded.
The whole world.
Yeah, if you live in Egypt,
right?
Like that is your whole world.
And archaeologically, we find out that Great Flood happened
but it wasn't the whole Earth.
But if you were living in that archaic time in the middle of that area, yeah, if you managed to even get on a boat and you're good, there was still the whole world flooded as far as you were concerned. Now, you know, somebody floods, it's not the whole world to them because the internet was like, oh shit, that was your neighborhood.
Yeah, it makes me think of like if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, does it make a sound? I mean, of course it does, but does anybody care?
No one gave a fuck. Yeah.
I think that it's great we have the internet, that it connects us in that way, and people are able to be in a small town and get their message out and get support from all around. But at the same time, you know, we lose some of those face-to-face interactions. You know, when people are walking around with clipboards at shows, like signing people up, like, hey, come to my meeting, let's talk about these issues and share our personal stories that are impacting us. And you get to put a face to that, and you get to have that support system within your community built from that. I just think we need both.
Yeah, there's got to be some kind of balance for sure.
What happens is the net, because it is virtual, then you don't have any commodity to, you know what I mean? You don't really have any collateral with your honor.
And it doesn't.
You know what I mean? When you say something online, it's a persona. You never, you know, like keyboard warriors. You don't have to back anything you say up online.
Especially if you can be anonymous on certain.
And you don't have to see the damage that you inflict on people.
You know, and on the reciprocating end of that, it's just sitting there. You know, you don't have to access that. Nobody has to take your information in. And even those, and so, you know, there's one thing that goes to the other end of the counter information, you know, where people are like, be careful of what you have to say because of how it can affect the world. In essence, it's saying, be careful of what you read because how it can affect you.
That's true.
And people are just diving in for information like it's nothing, and information is power. And so in essence, you got people not putting on electric gloves and not trained to deal with this kind of circuitry, running up and grabbing stuff, you know, and then they're getting burned or getting blasted and going, oh my God, you know, I'm offended, or I can't conceive that, or I don't believe that, or this is wrong, or, you know, and it's like, look, you weren't ready to take that kind of power in. Because you misinterpreted it, or you took it as law, or you just took it as affecting you when it really doesn't. It's been sitting there for eons. And it wasn't until you touched it that it burned you.
Yeah. You're reminding me of an anecdote my mom told me. I tell my mom, like, everything. Like, she's really cool. And, like, I tell her about, like, times I've interacted with spirits. I've told her about crazy drug trips I've had. And she doesn't like that those things occur. Or have occurred. But, like, she, you know, she still loves me. I got a cool mom. Anyway. Shout out to cool mom.
Shout out to cool.
She said one time, though, like, concerning, like, I don't remember if we were talking about, like tarot cards or a Ouija board or mushrooms. I don't remember what it was. But...
all three.
Yeah, probably. She was like, you know, with those things, it's like... She's like, I think it's kind of like if you were a little kid and you got into, like, your dad left the, like, tool shed unlocked. And it's like, there's, like, a blowtorch in there and a chainsaw. And it's like, these things have a purpose, but there's a reason you weren't allowed into it because you're not prepared for that, you know? And I think that's a good analogy. There's a lot of truth to that. You don't want to... It's better, when it comes to, like, spirits and stuff like that, it's better to err on the side of caution than to be careless with it.
When teaching your 5-year-old crafts, Alice, stay away from allowing them to use MAP gas or propane. Quick PSA.
Just know your child.
Yeah.
Pay attention to them. That's
when I was a kid, I couldn't use a frying pan without 2 oven mitts because I was very OCD, still am, and I would just be like, I know it's hot, but I'd be like, oh, it's uneven. Oh, right hand last. I'm just sitting here, like, burning my hands. So you'll see me in there with oven mitts, just, like, trying to fry an egg.
Nice. Better safe than sorry.
Well, that way I could touch it because I needed touch it. Unsheath the Tetsuiga.
Dun dun dun.
I tried to tell you, but you didn't want to see. You trust your gut, but I trust probability. I think you're lying, you must think I'm lying too. You never listen when I'm telling you. Just know I can't give you anything. Misfortune is all I will bring. I'm not funny, not sweet like honey. I hate my job, but fuck, I love money. I stay sick, I'm over this shit. I miss the things that I had to quit. I lock my door, pass out on the floor. That hurts, won't you give me some more? I'm tongue-tied, put your hand on my thigh. I'm just mean, and you're sweet like tangerine. You're sweet like tangerine. No, I get nauseous and overly cautious, out of my mind. Fast forward and rewind. Can't give my all when I brace for the fall. Waist deep in regret, got my own hands on my neck. Then fickle I followed for a little too long. And every hope that I borrowed just steered me wrong. Is someone always second place? Why are we content keeping pace? Is everyone out here saving face? What do you get when you live for the chase? What do you get when you live for the chase? What do you get when you live for? Not funny, not sweet like honey. I hate my job, but fuck, I love money. I stay sick, I'm over this shit. I miss the things that I had to quit. I lock my door and pass out on the floor. That hurts, won't you give me some more? I'm tongue-tied, put your hand on my thigh. I'm just mean, but you're sweet like tangerine. I'm just mean, I'm just a little bit mean. I'm just mean and you're sweet like tangerine. I'm just mean, I'm just a little bit mean. I'm just mean and you're sweet like tangerine. We talked about tangerines. The original tangerine.
Nice.
Yay, that was
Nice.
great.
Very good.
Outside of like musically, what other like inspirations, things were you into as a kid?
I really loved Play-Doh.
Yeah, okay.
It was my favorite. I was a child of the internet. Obviously, I enjoyed playing Neopets, and
Oh my fucking god.
actually,
A shared obsession.
Neopets was my introduction to HTML and CSS, and like got me
Oh.
really interested in building web pages.
It
Because
didn't do that for me.
on the message boards. You know, you made your font all really cool with your BB stuff, your BB code. I think that's what it's called.
I didn't get
Multiple.
that deep. I don't think. I was really into Neopets though, but
Yeah.
yeah, you were like you were like really.
I had a guild. I had mini guilds.
Oh shit.
And you know, and then I had a Paint Shop Pro back when that was a relevant program, and then Adobe, and I'd make like guild layouts. And I remember when it was the coolest thing to have like splatters in the background. You get your, you know, your cutout, your PSD of a celebrity, and you throw it on there, and you learn how to do like a little div layer and put your text right there in the
Hell
box.
yes. It's like yeah, that's like very of that era.
Mm-hmm. Some people modified their MySpace layouts, but no, I was on Neopets guilds, y'all.
Hey,
They'll with the cool kids. You losers on MySpace. Fuck off.
I mean, you know, that's
Cool
You
you can't even
kids.
do
Yeah,
anything
they-
on MySpace.
I had the biggest crush on this guy in 4th grade, and I kept talking to him about Neopets, and one day he was like, "Why do you talk about Neopets so much? I don't care." And I was like, "Well, he hates me."
Did you have plushies?
No, I didn't have the plushies, but I remember they had like the pound And they would put the animals in there, and they would be, like, underfed and disheveled, and their name was Poop
yes.
Face, and it broke my heart. And they were like, it's
Yeah.
Pixels. And I'm like, it has
Yeah.
feelings.
But
You're being-
Yeah, I do
Animals.
remember that. It's like
That's-
discarded Neopets.
It was so sad.
That's where the marketing guys started to learn about serotonin and the endorphin, reactions you can get from digital screens.
Mm-hmm.
But that goes back to it's the same as what you're looking at right now is on the tundra would have been the chief standing, or the shaman, or the head hunter standing in front of the fire chanting and pointing at the paintings on the wall to teach you how to hunt or gather
Yeah.
or how to respect the earth.
We are all in a cave sitting around a fireplace right now, just swapping
And that's
hunting
the fire.
stories.
That's the flicker, Alex.
Yeah, it's like big, like roasted, like who even knows what kind of meat, just on like holding it by the bones, like a big chunk of it. Just that's what we're doing right now. That's what we've been doing for
Unless-
like 100,000 years.
Unless you don't eat meat, Alex.
Yeah.
Then you were a
No
gatherer.
meat here.
Just giant, like a enormous piece of corn, like
I'm
this
grilling
big.
like the whole ass pineapple. And then I cut it open and I'm like, ah, shit, gotta start again.
Got both oven mitts on it.
Yes, both oven mitts. I'm like, ah, flammable. Rough.
You
Yeah.
are a vegan?
Yes, I'm vegan. Going on
Nice.
3 years.
3 years. Wow.
Nice. That's
As
that's an honorable commitment. My roommate is also vegan, and we have a lot of discussions about this. And every time we talk about like animal rights and that kind of thing, I 100% agree with him. I just don't have the willpower myself.
And I really respect that answer. You know, I've realized, because I was a vegetarian for a long time. I started at 15, and then I stayed that way for about 6 years. Fell off the wagon, went back to vegetarian. Finally, was able to become vegan. But you know, I used to be the kind of person that was like, I mean, I know it's wrong, but I can't give up cheese. But like, I don't think anybody who could be changed, who could be led to follow that path, could be brought to it by shame. So for me, my outreach isn't as much about changing people's minds as it is about just being an example, like showing that I live well and how fulfilled my life is, how much healthier I am. Without even trying and realizing, I lost 60 to 70 pounds.
Right.
Wow, just from a diet change. Like, I guess it is an extreme diet change.
And I was vegetarian before, and the cheese and eggs just did me in.
Yeah.
My blood pressure just dropped dramatically. Like,
Okay.
I'm so healthy.
That's awesome.
It's one of those things that I've done that with a lot of different things where, like when I quit drinking, it's like you can't shame people into change.
Exactly.
Like that, and they will invite it, especially with something like alcoholism, because all of a sudden it's like, oh, you think you're, and it's like, no, I never said that, but they project that on you.
I have seen that with
And-
people. Maybe you just post a picture of your food, and they're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
well, you know that, like, there's a lot of people harmed in the harvesting of the
Right.
fruits that you eat.
Right.
It's like, what the fuck? This is a picture of food. Calm
Yeah.
down, Karen.
And that's the thing is, and I'm not a vegan. As a matter of people, for the sake of, like I talk about, for the sake of when I go to eat, I classify myself as pescatarian. But that's kind of, I explained it once in front of a vegan, and I don't think she liked the way I put this, because I was explaining it to somebody else, and I don't know how. She seemed like she was very much a lover of shaming people type vegan.
Yeah, you're not one of those vegans.
She didn't seem as vegan as she claimed to be. You know what I mean? And she was very like, I asked her one day about something, and I just inquired about it, and the response had to do with, well, yeah, blooded to blooded, and I was like, oh, okay, I just.
Right.
So it was one of those. But anyway, I explained to her, her friend, when she's like, oh, are you like pescatarian or vegetarian? And I was like, well, I don't find this label and then look at the rules and say this is what I am. What I've done is I've studied nutrition and studied what I think is correct in my reasons, and then I've decided from there.
Yeah, and pescatarian is a largely healthy diet.
It's, and yeah, I think, and there's like multiple reasons that, you know, people would do that, right?
Exactly.
Like there's health, and there's the moral reason.
Well, there's you know, and I tell people a lot of times, you know, a lot of people mistake it. They think that it's because of animal rights that I do this, and it's not necessarily the case. But then a lot of people don't understand the type of animal rights activist or activist.
Oh yeah, like ALF.
Yeah, that I am, to the extent that it actually is more what veganism is, because veganism isn't so much a diet as
A lifestyle.
as an understanding that
a lot of people go by plant-based now just because there's
Right.
less of a negative connotation to it.
Right.
And that is one thing that fires me up.
I've argued with vegans before about if they have pets, because
I've heard that.
yeah, because the domestication of any animal, and you know, it's a PETA claim.
Well,
PETA
I mean,
euthanizes more
my
than
dog
anybody.
isn't from a breeder, and if I let that dumbass outside, he'd die in
Right.
5 minutes.
And that's the thing that
Yeah,
I'm not really a fan of PETA, but that's what a lot of people don't realize. PETA euthanizes more than anybody because they feel a domesticated creature is living cruelly. You can't let them out to survive. And
PETA's done a lot of fucked up shit.
He's done a lot of bad things. I
Yeah.
don't ever advocate for them. I'll just say
No,
that,
yeah.
you know, they're a widely available resource that, you know, helps a lot of people get their feet off the ground on the path.
Right. So yeah, I mean,
Kind of like Red Cross going to third world countries and bringing them food, but also you have to adopt our religion.
right.
It's like,
Yeah, it's,
well,
you know,
you had a good part going.
and, you know, I'm not really about any organization,
Yeah.
you know, trying to move anything. It's one of those things where it's the claim on certain things where when people are active or activists or advocate things extremely, when they don't really understand the broad spectrum in there, you know, and because, like you're saying, now it's got a lot of negative connotation because it came out as a buzz thing, you know. Everybody's like, oh, vegan, that's the new thing, you know. Yeah, oh, the whole vegan, you know. I see even have people say it to me if I'm like, oh no, I don't eat red meat, I don't eat, you know, flesh meat like that. They're like, oh, I do. Oh, I've done the whole vegan vegetarian thing, and I'm like, I don't really know what you're referring to. I just told you that I don't want to eat, you know, that in particular meat.
And I kind of believe that, you know, there's a lot of militant vegans out there for sure, but I think there's a lot more hate directed at vegans than vegans are directing at other people, because people are assholes regardless of what you eat, and just statistically there are far less vegans. So when I see somebody unprovoked on an anti-vegan rant on Facebook about how they're all assholes, I'm just like, do you know one vegan?
Yeah.
Do you know one? Like, how many do you know?
Yeah.
Like,
And
who
that's the
hurt
thing.
you?
It's the imaginary.
Because I've been
vegan.
bullied a lot more for my choices than I've ever done towards anybody else. I mean, I had bologna thrown at me in high school.
Wow.
That's fine.
That's random and sad.
Yeah, that's,
At the same time.
That's lame.
It's a waste of food is what it is.
Right. It's like, yeah, it's like you went that far to like kill this animal and process it. Now you just threw it on the ground and it's gone forever.
Yeah, I mean, when I first became a vegetarian at 15, obviously I read the PETA agenda, and I was like, oh, you save 100 animals a year by going vegan, and they're like, I'm going to eat twice as many so I can just
That's fucked
null
up.
and void and cancel out anything you do. And I'm like, why? Why are you like this?
It's the idea that if you go outside and you pick up a stick and you carve it into a spear, you strap a stone to the end of it, and you go run an elk down, and you drag it back and you put it on the fire, it's a little bit different.
It's a little different.
That's a little bit different than you go into the grocery store
Yeah.
where there's been
That
a
I totally agree
genetically
with.
altered
Yeah.
creature that's strictly been genetically altered because of our domestication of it. Dogs, in general, canines, should not exist. We made them by domesticating wolves.
Right.
But
We
now
Well, it's
we're
kinda
here.
like-
genetically altered them.
It's like chickens cannot survive on their own.
No.
There are no wild chickens. There are wild island birds that chickens derive from. But if we released all the chickens into the wilderness, they would all die. They have no way to get food on their own.
and this
Right, but the
and-
factory farming conditions for chickens, you know,
It
it's not the way that it should be. There should be regulations upon that at the very least.
Or we
it's-
should just
it
not
is-
have chickens.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
like
really,
stop breeding them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
like if
that's-
somebody wants to have a chicken coop and they're not making them fight and they're taking good care of them, like live your life.
Well, I mean, and that's
Homestead.
the whole idea is that what you're doing is, and I've brought this up before, is that in domesticating these creatures, and the same thing happens with vegetation. Oranges, you know, were berries this big when the pirates found them. You know, almost every fruit, or actually oranges weren't even oranges. I think tangerines were first, and we made oranges from tangerines and tangelos.
You guys heard it here first. Tangerine was the original.
I think, but you know, I get a lot of that.
What
you
came
know,
first, the chicken or the tangerine?
Right. So, you know, industrialization, the banana isn't the same. The original banana is gone. It went extinct.
They were like more like coconut shaped, right? They were like smaller.
Well, no, what it was is the flavor was different. It was a different breed. And that and the breed that we had bred to sell, that grew a bunch and we, you know, cultivated is the term we use. It had some kind of disease that happened at one point and wiped it all out. So they had to recultivate it.
Damn.
And what they recultivated was not the same. That's
Oh,
why
wow.
artificial banana flavor doesn't taste like banana. It tastes like the old bananas used to taste.
Well, they were disgusting.
Yeah, I like
now,
these new bananas.
well, I mean, they're supposed to. It probably doesn't, you know. Now, you have, like apples. Apples are from a Granny Smith, all right? That Granny Smith tree that came from is a clone from the very original Granny Smith apple tree. Because when an apple tree grows, all of its seeds, you plant every single one of them. It's like 1 in 800,000 or something will come up to be another apple tree that tastes the same. Every other one will produce apples and they'll be edible, but they'll taste like crap. And that's how they breed them. And when they find somebody discovers one that, hey, this tastes great, they name it after themselves and then they clone it and then that's theirs and they can copyright it. And that's why you have named. Great. So apples aren't even natural. We've cultivated them. You know.
Yeah.
Nothing's real.
Nothing's
Nothing.
right.
Nothing is real.
What are some of your favorite meals to eat?
Let's see. I make a lot of soup. I'm really big on my Instant Pot. I like potatoes. I've been doing a lot of salad recently. Been better about keeping fresh produce in the house. I really like this creamy mushroom rice stuff that I make. It's like you start with like a roux, you add some almond milk, some onion powder, and mushrooms, and you pour it over rice. It's kind of like stroganoff. It's so good. I love curry.
Vegan cooking down the rabbit hole here this evening, Alice.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds really
Broccoli
good.
cheddar soup.
I didn't
You
eat enough today.
put a little nooch in there. It's tasty.
What is that? Nooch?
Nutritional yeast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They say it has a cheesy taste, and it sort of does. Sort of. It's good.
Enzyme helps battle all the bad bacteria within you.
I recently tried spaghetti squash for the first time, and that's exciting.
Really? Yeah, that's one of the only squashes I like. Squash is a little bit.
I love zucchini. It's
Oh.
my favorite.
Yeah.
It's so
Zucchini's
good.
really good.
I'll put it in everything. Let's go.
Raw zucchini is good.
It is. It's good
Yeah.
raw. Like one time on my lunch break, I just went to Kroger and got some sliced vegetables, and it had like zucchini. I was like, let's go. So good. But Taco Bell's very vegan friendly for the work days. I like that.
When did that happen?
Taco Bell?
Toxic hell, vegan. Right?
You said toxic.
A few years. They have a make it vegetarian button on there, but I mean a lot of dishes they have are already vegetarian friendly, and you have the option for fresco style where it removes any like dairy and replaces it with tomatoes. And I'm like, thank you. Love tomatoes.
Nice.
All right.
Didn't know that.
It's very, very easy.
Is it? Well, okay. Well, I was about to ask you, like, is it an expensive, hard to keep up lifestyle? But it sounds like you just eat Taco Bell if you want.
I think it's a myth that veganism is more expensive than other diets because
I've always said that even organic and vegetarian is not.
Yeah, I mean, a pound of meat's going to cost more than, like a pound of rice.
Things last longer.
Rice and beans are the cheapest foods in the world. And you don't have to get fresh produce because I feel like part of what makes it so expensive is you've got this timetable to consume it within. You have to have the time to go to the grocery store every week and pick up those things. And not everybody has the time to do that. But frozen fruits and veggies are totally great option. Canned food is a great option. So I always keep my pantry stocked with stewed tomatoes and black beans and chickpeas. Chickpeas are so good. Chickpea salad. You mash up some chickpeas with some Dijon mustard, a little bit of relish, and it's just amazing.
You like hummus?
I love hummus. Hummus makes me hummus.
That's what chickpeas.
Yeah, it's made from hummus.
Oh,
and falafels made from hummus. Made from chickpeas too. So
chickpeas.
you got your hard chickpeas and your mushy chickpeas and different.
I'm a big fan of black and red beans.
Oh man, that reminds me. I really like the black bean burgers they make. Those are so good.
I've really there was a place I went to right on the way, and I got to find out what they were because they got a veggie burger that was unlike any actual veggie burger I'd ever had.
Was it Brothers Burgers?
No, this was some little hole in the wall kind of little local
Fat Mo's.
Pharmacy's got a really
Fat
good
Mo's.
black bean burger.
I'm very, very, very familiar with Fat Mo's.
It's
Shout out
like
Fat
a
Mo's.
falafel burger almost, but it's not vegan.
Yeah, Fat Mo's, that's the only hamburger I miss. Shout out to Fat Mo. That's a Nashville Music City staple right there. But no, this was I can't remember the name of it. It was a real simple spot that just opened, and I went in there because they had Beyond Burgers, so Beyond the pea protein ones, and which really, I've never been a fan of the alternate burger. Because I used to like burgers so much that I'm I don't want to eat black bean and all this other stuff like that. I would rather just eat black bean and rice or something, and not eat a burger. But when I tried pea protein based burgers, they did such a good job of making them taste like a damn hamburger.
I've heard meat eaters say that the Impossible Whopper is better than the BK Whopper with meat.
Probably because
my roommate eats at least 100 of those a week.
Now, see what gets me though is
my metabolism would not allow me to.
See, he's like some pestilent creature though. He does not live a healthy life. He does not eat appropriately because he eats cereal and Impossible Burgers. He does not cook as much. Well, actually, I'll take that back. He made some stew the other day. It was really good. But that's why I was asking how you do it because he seems to struggle with it.
I really try not to eat a lot of processed food, but sometimes, convenience is important, and I do have, Morningstar pizza rolls in my freezer for times.
Shout out to Morningstar, the satanic vegetarian brand.
Right. But it's difficult. I'm not the type of person that's prepared enough to, meal prep or pack my lunch, so I do Taco Bell during the week sometimes, or I'll do, a Veggie Delight at Subway, but I try to, when I'm at home, just eat as much whole foods as I can. Just all the vegetables. I even try not to eat too much pasta, even though I love pasta. And I've even cut back on rice.
I
hate it because I love rice.
I feel like I would have to do pasta, rice, and beans all day.
I'm trying to cut weight right now.
I don't mention making homemade pasta around here because what? Or gnocchi.
I've had your homemade pizza.
That's the one that's made with potato, right?
It doesn't have to be, but yeah, it's a little too much. I'll make it with
yeah, he can cook.
No, I can't. Don't listen to him.
I didn't say that.
I
didn't say that. Don't believe me.
I don't know anything about cooking. Any of that kind of stuff. I just sit in front of a control desk and push buttons all day. That's my world.
Cooking up beets.
Yeah, that's
all
what
day.
I cook up.
Hot
satellite.
On the stove.
Bombing the earth with beats of fire.
I need to announce an EP date.
Yes.
You absolutely do.
You've got new stuff coming out.
I know. I'm gonna.
You just gotta come up with one on the spot.
I know, right on the spot. I thought of a date. It's kind of arbitrary. Let's say July 21st. New EP.
That sounds.
Fuck yeah, you heard it here first, Alice.
July 21st, Alice.
I'm looking at you, I'm like, producer, can I do it? is that reasonable?
Well, yeah, that's awesome. We will have links down below, Alice. Go check out Courtney, Shrieking Violet. Thank you so much for coming back on.
Thank
This
you
was
for
a blast.
having me.
It was.
It was a blessing.
Yes. Well, Alice, you have a wonderful evening, and try not to eat too much of that chocolate. I mean, dark chocolate's really good for you, but, you know, the milk chocolate, you might want to watch that.
Yeah, don't give it to the dog either.
No.
Maybe drink some tea and go to bed.
Yeah, sleepy time, Alice.
Good night, Alice.
Adios.